So I'm just going to run you through the optional aptitudes build of Moresby. Again, you need a code. It's going to be a different code than if you were doing the elemental aspirations. Same login process. And straight into the interest questionnaire. And I'll go through this, again being positive. (103 questions in total here. And I'm doing this so you can actually have a decent look at the questions as you go through. And around the 60%, 65% mark, that heading "I'd like a job where I" would change to "I could and would like to." Now at the end of this we get the results immediately, whereas with the elemental aspirations we had to have the results released by a careers advisor. This is a switch in the system, and when you're trained you'll be able to change that. So if you want students not to get their results, you can do that. It's going to be same in terms of the world of work, work style, workplace, all the same. Again, personality and priorities are the same, but this time there's possibility to do a study interest questionnaire. Now it's on this bottom row of tabs, which I call the inputs, but actually you complete it from options at 18+, so we'll come to that later. When we look at the careers tab, the first thing you'll see here is that students have to set a qualification level. Now that's because based on interest they might want to work at a very high level in science or a very low level in science, and certainly Moresby can't make that decision for them. So the decision is, what do you set it at? And this is something you'll need to sit with the students and discuss. Let's say for example you say maybe they'll do VCAL Senior and then into work, and then when they're in the work you think maybe focus more on apprenticeships and traineeships, which is we're essentially looking at the higher level of attainment than we did with the elemental aspirations. And you see as I change various settings you get new entries in. There's a dozen suggestions for everybody based on the interests only. That's the only information we've got, but leveled in terms of, if you know, the bullseyes approach where you have the higher level qualification further out on the bullseye. That's exactly what you're doing here. So for example, if we move this up to very high qualification levels and a competitive degree, you'd find those interests will turn them into very, very different kinds of careers. So for now I'm just going to drop this down. And here you can have a look at information on any of the careers. There's something on career routes. The thicker the line, the more typical the approach. You can look at related careers, and you can look at a series of resources. And you can favourite them, top right here. So I'm just going to favourite this one, and that'll pop up as a favourite. And I might say I've always fancied being an admin assistant or admin manager, so you can favourite from here as well. And you'll see there's a lot of related careers. Now if we click on this, something close to travel agent is tour operator. If we put that in the list, what you'd end up with is a very narrow list. And yes, Moresby tries to get it right, but it's just a computer system. So what we're really trying to do here is force a little bit of breadth in the suggestions. And by hiding tour operator behind travel agent, it means we can allow a range of other things to come in. And students can search. So let's say they always wanted to be a carpenter, for example. You can put this in, select it, and if you favourite it and close, you'll see, but it's not a particularly good match based on their interests. If you said something like, I want to be a doctor, or an anaesthetist, then favourite that. What will happen is that the system will say, hang on a minute, it doesn't suit you well based on your interest, and the academic level isn't sufficient, and you can bin these as well. So it should be quite an interesting little exercise to work with students to try and perhaps highlight 2, 3, 4 careers they're interested in and see how others fit them. You can also focus on whether you look at the specialist interest, that was the I could and would like to questions, or the interests alone. So if you focus on this person's strengths in terms of their own views, you get a wide range of things popping up. None of these views is right, they're all just views of the individual. And based on any information that has been collected, in this case just interests, plus the requirements to get into the various careers, and there's none specific for any of the highlighted careers, that will generate a list of 16 plus options. Now, with these, the school can set which ones appear. This is a generic Moresby Centre here, so everything appears, there's a lot of them, and for each one of them you can click and it will give you a description of them, and it's VCE, VET and VCAL is also in here as well. So the idea before you start using the system would be to refine the list of subjects you'd like students to see. The system also supports apprenticeships and traineeships. So there are various areas here, so if we wanted to know what's available in advertising, we'd go down, and there's nothing at that bottom level for advertising and PR, so that's not going to help. Computer game and multimedia, there is something. You can do some things here, so you can do training courses at TAFE and traineeships are possible. And there's also more information on apprenticeships. Similar areas and resources, of course. And this is the Australian Apprenticeship Pathways search engine, so you can search for specific careers within Moresby and opportunities within Moresby. When we go to options at 18 plus, we have not so much specific careers, but we have study areas. Now the difference, if we look at careers, these are all actual jobs you can get. You know, you could put that on your business card. If we look at options at 18 plus, these are general study areas. So we saw admin came up quite a lot in the careers. Here we can talk about apprenticeships, similar areas and resources in that broader administration area. And the idea behind this is that students can think more broadly before getting too narrow into looking at specific job titles. Now, if I go back to careers, and instead of saying apprenticeships, if I say I want to go off and do a degree, then I go back to options at 18 plus. Students are given the opportunity to complete a study interest questionnaire. And this is looking at what they're interested in studying rather than the tasks and environment involved in a particular career. And in general, adding the study interest information into the career interest information gives a very rich and robust view of someone's preferences. So if someone is thinking a tertiary study, I'd always suggest they do the study interest questionnaire. Now, the other thing you can do, and don't forget you could, if we go to profile, you could click on study interest, priorities and personality, But if we now go back to profile, or we do it from careers, we can enhance suggestions. Now, a student doesn't need to ask you. They can do it themselves, and there's information on what's available here. So let's say I wanted to start. I'd go off here, fill in some more information, say English is my first language, no health issues. Next. And then we're into the first of a number of assessments here. And the student can do this at their leisure. So they can go through the whole lot in one go. It'll take them a bit under an hour and a half. Or they might split it up. You might do a couple a day, have a break, that kind of thing. As they go through, it's not the case that they'll do the verbal and the numerical and then have a look at the results to see what's changed. They have to do the whole lot before they see the aptitudes in their profile. End of module.